I was loved by the credit card companies because I didn't know how to use a credit card. So I just thought it was free money, I'd spend more than I could afford to, and then I'd get stuck in a debt cycle.
I think they should start teaching in schools marketing. Digital marketing, SEO, PPC, Google Ads, generating organic leads, the importance of having a brand, an online brand, which is one reason why we do this podcast. Just going through my questions here. I think one of the big things that, just coming back to financial literacy, one of the big things that I probably learned a bit too late as well was the importance of having a credit card and building not just credit and building a credit score, which helps you get good, favourable interest rates on your future loans, including your mortgage. But if you're really wise with a credit card as well, so you pay it off every month basically, the fantastic rewards you can get, like really good rewards. I'll give an example. So I've got a American Express BA, whatever it's called, BA Plus card, whatever it is. Basically, for every £1 I spend, I get 1.5 Avios.
Nice.
So I do all my spending on that. Sometimes I give the credit card to mum and say, Mum, if you're going to go on holiday, spend it on my card, please. Build up a bunch of points, and then I use those points to book reward flights on BA. So they're very specific seats on BA that only released like, it's like 6 seats per flight. I had to do a lot of reading about this. But essentially, a business class flight return to Dubai, for example, you guys know how much I love Dubai. Business class return is like £3,500. So I've booked my flights back to go back in December, and I've secured it for about £600.
Wow.
And the rest I just spent a bunch of points.
How many points? I'm curious about this because I've built up a lot of points.
All right.
Right? On my Amex.
Uh-huh.
On my Amex Gold. And I'm saving it because I want to get some mad business class flights. Right?
Yeah.
I think I've got like 130,000 points.
Okay, nice.
Which are like for like conversion into Avios.
Yeah, 130,000 Avios, yeah.
What can I get with that? And I've been told that they're becoming worth less than they used to be, is what I've been told. But I want to get like a long haul business class flight or two.
Okay.
To somewhere.
Somewhere nice, yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere nicer than Dubai. Or further than Dubai.
Further than Dubai, yeah. Maldives, yeah.
Zanzibar.
Okay, so the trick is, I had to do hours and hours of reading to understand all of this, but the first thing is to see how much value you get from every Avios you spend. So generally speaking, a good value is, I think it's 1p per Avios. But with the method I found, or with the reward seats, you can sometimes get 3-4p per Avios. So the trick is to, and yours is a bit more complicated because you've got 130,000 points.
But it switches directly into Avios.
Yeah, but the key here is that you've got a choice.
Yeah.
So you've got the gold card,
Yeah.
which means you can convert that to
Any airline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your kind of opportunities are endless.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I do with BA, and then this
I'm trying to switch to Qatar, bro. I'm trying to get that Qatar Airways business class flight.
They use the same.
They use Avios.
Yeah, they use Avios, so you can use it on Qatar as well. But the trick is to firstly find a way to find these reward seats, because if you go on the website itself and you look for reward seats, the issue is that you have to search manually day by day. So unless you know very specific dates you want to fly, sometimes you go on that day and it's like, I don't see any reward seats here. So the trick is to use a website like SeatSpy. There are other websites, I forget the names, but SeatSpy allows you to see the entire calendar year. And it shows you which days where you love it, don't you?
Gems, bro. I need to gas.
Make sure you clip this. You'll see the entire year of premium economy and business class seats that are available. I'll show you after this pod.
Yeah.
And basically you go back to the website that you were on and you select the day, and then suddenly you see the seat there because the website told you. So then you find the outgoing flight and then the inbound flight, and then you book it. When you book it, you get a choice of you get different choices of how much cash do you want to spend and how much points or Avios do you want to spend. So the more cash you spend, the more bang for buck you get
Yeah.
for your Avios. You spend less Avios.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. These business class seats I booked, I believe the lowest option was something like £400, but it was enormous Avios. I think like 150,000 Avios, something silly.
Wow.
But I chose the next best one. I think it was like 650, and then a lot less Avios. But if I paid something like maybe £1,000 or £1,200, the Avios was way less. So what you do is if you want to calculate how much your Avios is worth, you take the cash price, you go to a different website, and you just book the business class seats normally, and you'll say 3.5 grand.
Wow.
So you do 3.5 minus £1,000, 2.5 grand, and then the Avios you spent, you divide it by the difference. So that's how much the Avios is worth. So basically, like overcomplicating this, basically the more cash you spend, the more valuable your Avios is. But you're still spending less cash compared to a normal ticket. But yeah, the key is to try and find these seats in the first place.
Yeah.
And the key to that is using these
Seats by. Got it, man.
dedicated
So with
websites.
100,000 points, I should get a decent business class flight, you reckon?
Yeah, very good flight. You want business, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. This is why I've been racking these up. I've never flown business.
No?
Never.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd recommend then flying Qatar, definitely.
Yeah.
Or Emirates. I think, from my understanding, they do like business class flights. If you fly Qatar, you can use Seats By. You'll see Qatar flights on there.
Legend. Seats
Emirates, you're gonna.
No, bun Emirates. I'm going straight to Qatar, bro. Straight Qatar. Best
Straight
business
Qatar,
class
yeah.
flights.
Yeah. Get you on suite, I think.
Yeah.
Do you still want to go Zanzibar or?
Yeah.
Okay. It might cost you a bit more than.
It's fine.
Yeah, you're right with that.
Yeah, it's fine. I just do it only once or twice in it. So.
But yeah, in terms of your credit cards, the Amex Gold credit card, you've got flexibility in how you spend your points. So I was doing research on it because I used to have the Gold credit card. And you can spend it on things like Amazon, you can spend it on things like hotels, you can spend it on a bunch of stuff. The best thing to spend it on is flights, which is what ended up me getting the BA card, because I thought if I'm just going to use it for flights, I might as well get that card.
Yeah.
Plus I get slightly more points anyway, 50% more actually.
Oh wow, it's a lot more.
The thing is, if you don't mind BA, because BA is not that great anymore, but if you don't mind, then I do recommend the BA card, because if you spend 15k a year on that card, then you get something called a companion voucher.
Yeah, I know about the companion voucher.
You know about that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But you have to not mind BA.
Yeah, I know. Food for thought, man.
Yeah, it's food for thought.
Once I do my Qatar one, I'll downgrade.
Exactly. So importance of credit cards. Yes, I wish we were taught about credit cards in school and building credit score and these rewards and stuff. When did you first get your first credit card?
So I've operated on both sides of the credit card world.
Yeah.
Credit cards can be the best and the worst thing for you.
Yes.
Best or the worst thing for you, right?
For sure.
Right now, credit card companies hate me because, and I love credit cards because I don't ever pay any interest.
Yeah.
Right? And I just use it for all my spending, so I get all of the rewards and I pay off the balance in full.
Yes.
Every month, which is how I encourage people to use them. And also, again, faith-based, right? I can't be in a position where I'm paying interest anyway.
Yep.
So I just use it as a spend card and then I pay off the balance. So I make sure it's what I can afford.
Yeah.
So I'm never
They won't
paying.
hate you that much. They're still making money from their fees.
Yeah, of course, yeah,
with
which is
so
fine. Whatever
that's
they need to for their
Don't hate
services.
Niaz. This is right.
But I then get all the rewards
Yep.
and I never pay interest.
Okay.
Before, I was loved by the credit card companies because I didn't know how to use a credit card.
Yep.
So I just thought it was free money. I'd spend more than I could afford to, and then I'd get stuck in a debt cycle.
Yeah.
And you'd always find yourself just indebting yourself slightly more.
Yeah.
And constantly having to pay slightly more than you could afford.
Yeah.
Interest would accrue, etc. Not only was that misaligned to my faith-based values,
Sure. Yeah.
which I didn't fully understand,
Yeah.
but also like I was just getting myself into cycles of debt.
Yes.
And the credit card companies obviously love that because they've now got someone.
Yeah, they've got someone hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think credit cards can be the best thing for you if you pay off the balance in full each month, maximize the rewards.
Yeah.
They can be the worst thing if you spend more than you can afford to spend.
Exactly. I mean, this comes back to budgeting.
Exactly.
keeping track of all of it.
Yeah.
Because with an app that has open banking, you can connect your bank account and your credit card, and then you can just basically see everything in one place and think, okay, I've got £5,000 in my bank account, so I can afford to spend £2,000 on my credit card, and then you spend on your credit card, you see all the transactions come through, and you don't go over what you should be spending.
Yeah.
And then it works in your favour.
Yeah, exactly.
It all ties together. Budgeting, credit cards. What was the hardest financial lesson you had to learn the hard way?
Poor. It's a load, man. But probably like spend less than you earn.
Yeah.
I think, and also like, I think the big one is spend less than you earn, and like don't make yourself a victim to lifestyle inflation. So as I was earning more and more money, I realized that I actually felt poorer. And that's because I was inflating the sense of what I could afford. I was like, oh, like my salary is X now. I can afford X, Y, Z. So as my salary was increasing, I was increasing what I felt like I deserved and what my lifestyle should permit.
Right.
But obviously you're always overreaching. So I was never materially any better off. And actually I found myself in trickier financial positions. So I think it's a big lesson to like just check your ego and act to your wage, which no one does.
Yeah, so
and I've realized
spending within your means.
Yeah, 100%. And I've realized actually now I'm in a position where I'm like privileged enough to be having and making money, which I'm super grateful for, which is a position that I like had always strived towards. And now that I have the money that I acted like I always had, I'm like, what the hell is going on? All these people who I know aren't making this amount of money are spending like I used to or more, and I know they can't afford it. And it's a big realization that a majority of people are actually really leasing their lifestyles, and probably spending a lot more than they can afford to do so. And the majority of people don't even probably realize it. And I learned that the hard way, I think.
Right. Okay. Okay. By getting yourself into
exactly.
Okay. How did you discipline yourself to get yourself out of debt?
Initially, it was actually stopping and being like, okay, let me see exactly where I am.
Okay.
Budgeting was a step, and then building like good habits on top of that.
Right.
The idea of like paying yourself first, which is like a personal finance concept, but basically that just meant that as soon as I got paid, I was like, right, I'm putting this much aside, I'm budgeting this much aside to pay down my debt or save towards my future or invest towards my future. So it was basically contributing to my future financial outcomes rather than present day, or servicing previous debts. And it was ingraining that behavior month on month and building on top of it. That eventually like I completely transformed where I was financially.
Nice. Okay. So you had to go through the...
fully had to go through the pain, man, and understand.
But now it's ingrained within you.
It is, but I still recognize how much of it is behavioral, though, because now I have the knowledge and I understand when I'm going wrong. It forces me to act on it, right?
Would you say kind of this lesson, because this is a kind of deep life lesson that you went through, do you feel a catalyst to starting Millennial Money?
100%. Yeah, 100%. That was our initial messaging, is that me and my friend, we were like, we've made every mistake there is to make about money. So you don't need to listen to people that are talking down on you about money. Listen to us, because we are the idiots that made the same mistakes. And we can tell you how to get out of it without being like, you should do this, and you know what I mean? Our tone was, listen, I did the same thing. This is how to fix it. Right? And just a bit more straight talking. Because I think the conversation of money before we started, a lot of it was like, you felt a bit stupid when you were engaging with conversations of money. People would try to like reinforce that feeling of, oh, money's not for me to understand, because it just felt too confusing, too complicated. Some people are good with money, some people aren't, and we really wanted to challenge that notion.
No, super interesting. So we know the origins of Millennial Money now. One thing you mentioned much earlier in the podcast about financial literacy in education. So financial literacy ties in quite closely with, that was it. So one of the ways of basically, if you are in debt, one of the ways of getting out of it is spending less and putting that towards paying off the debt. But the other thing is earning more. And that's a key one, because one of the things we could be taught in schools as well was, how do you earn more? Now that could be something simple like just negotiating a pay rise, right? To bigger things like, how do you develop yourself to acquire skills, important, valuable skills, because the world is changing very quickly now.
Yeah.
And I doubt they're teaching this in school, but how do you start a business? How do you find trends that you can capitalize on? How do you run a business? I mean, when I started this business with Mohammed 2 years ago, one of the big things I've learned over the last couple of years, which I think they should start teaching in schools, marketing.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%.
And not just any marketing, like knocking on doors.
Yeah.
No one does that now. Digital marketing, SEO, PPC, Google Ads, generating organic leads, the importance of having a brand, an online brand, which is one reason why we do this podcast. I wish they taught that in schools.
Yeah.
Because that is such a crucial skill for anyone starting a business. Tell me about your journey in marketing and learning about all of...
I think we're learning on the fly, right? And I think that's because we were like probably... I wouldn't even call us the digitally native generation. I would say those slightly younger than us were the first digitally native generation, right? We were the ones that like... things were becoming digitized a lot more. We were like the early social media generation, right? And probably people underestimated how much of a shift that was going to cause. Now, like businesses as a whole, like some of the biggest businesses in the world are entirely digital, right? And it's so important to understand how this world works, and there's so much money to be had and made in this world, in the digital world, and being able to understand how to operate there is like hugely advantageous. And it's about to change again with a new industrial revolution with the advent of like AI. But people, I think, even in our generation, some people still kind of think of social media as just like, oh, it's just this plaything where people go to like, you know, it's pastime, it's leisure time. It's now where majority of commerce actually happens. When you look at a lot of like businesses have switched completely to their footprint being in the digital world. Right? And majority of the marketing is done digitally, right? There are some like in real life still like campaigns and stuff that happen, but more and more so traditional media is changing. And a lot of businesses are entirely digital. So you have to find a way to understand how this world works. I would say we probably couldn't have been taught in school because that world didn't exist at that time. I don't think any of our teachers would know what SEO was at that time. Because they'd be like, maybe some might, but like how would
it's changing too quickly.
Exactly, and like the way we market now and the mediums that we use, I don't think they would have known that some of these places were going to become that way, right? Who would have guessed that YouTube was going to be such a huge revenue generating platform? People, when we were in school, it was just silly videos. Do you know what I mean? Like it was.
It still is for me.
Yeah, exactly. But like actually, that's where infinite amount of advertising happens. And it's created a whole industry of its own. You know, so I think this is the one area that I probably give schools a bit of a pass, is that they probably didn't predict how to enterprise in this new world. Which are the opportunities that we have as a generation, I think.
I think this is a whole topic we could probably do a completely separate podcast on, but I've just been told from the camera crew that I need to stop. So now, Niaz, thank you for coming on. We've discussed a lot, financial literacy in schools, mature compliant investing, credit cards. I need to show you Seat Spy.
Yes, please.
And yeah, we just touched on marketing. So yeah, tune in guys next time for more good content.
Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome, man.